money is spent to see the players play. When it all comes down to it, it's going to come down to the money, and the money is spent for the players to play. So you can't be sitting there. I can't have officials kicking my money out of the game because it's costing my ticket prices.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with me today on this Wind Up Wednesday episode, my homeboy, George Ockett. George, how are you, sir?
Good, sir. Good. How you doing?
Oh, man, this is all for the fans. Just to reset it, George is a former coach, athletic director, administrator, school counselor. What a wealth of information and basketball aficionado. So on this Wind Up Wednesday episode, segment 1, all things NBA, segment 2, men's college basketball, and segment 3, women's college basketball. So let's jump right in it. The Phoenix Suns, they got a problem because Chris Paul and Scott Foster, who's local to our area, went to one of our local high schools, continue to have issue after issue after issue. They have already had meetings, George. Sorry we couldn't have Robert here to walk us through this, but George, if you're the NBA, how do you handle this? Because Scott Foster is one of your best officials. Chris Paul is a walking legend, future Hall of Famer, but they're having public incidents, and it's not good. Any thoughts, sir?
They're going to have to get to a point, and I think this is a microcosm of what's been brewing about the with your officials being more involved in games. I think this is unique because it's a personal situation that they got going on. The two don't like each other. So the NBA, they're going to have to step in. The officials up front are going to have to step in and set some boundary lines with these with the officials and the players. The players can't go because let's be honest. You're there the money is spent to see the players play. When it all comes down to it, it's going to come down to the money, and the money is spent for the players to play. So you can't be sitting there. I can't have officials kicking my money out of the game because it's costing my ticket prices. So they'll step in and have to say something if this continues going on. But this is no different. It's happened before. They've had to tell officials to calm down. You're not the star of the show here. They came to see the players and not you. So, be part of the game, not the reason the game goes one way or the other.
All right. So now I want to talk about the Spurs. For some reason, Coach Greg Popovich grabbed the PA announcement in a game last week against the vaunted Clippers and asked fans to stop booing Kawhi Leonard. George, what is Pop doing? Can you explain that to me?
Part of me was like, Pop kind of saved face with one of his players that he used to, that one of his former players he had respect for. I thought it was weird because it's one thing, you pay your ticket, you're allowed to boo the opposing player. But, Pop went into that dad mode. And I think this is where you start seeing Pop get, you hate to say this, and with NBA people, it might be sacrilegious. It might be about that time for Pop.
Pop just got a new deal. So Pop just re-signed.
I didn't say that they were going to go, that they were listening to me. I'm just saying that when Pop gets to these places where it's like, oh, we're not going to boo any old players, hell, tell that to Cleveland when LeBron shows up. I mean, it's one of those things, when you buy a ticket, at least what you can do to get away with is boo. And if they're going to boo Kawhi, they're going to boo Kawhi. But like I said, Pop went the old dad mode because he had the kid that he drafted that grew up underneath his banner and then wound up leaving. So he's like, y'all need to show him respect. I mean, when's the last time NBA fans showed anybody respect? Well, these are the kinds of things you can do in San Antonio that you can't do in Detroit, Philly, or Boston, okay? Because there's no way they would have booed Pop out of there by then if they'd been in one of those spots. So,
All right. So now I'm going to need your help as the counselor. OKC. The NBA is looking into allegations that Oklahoma City Thunder god Josh Giddey had improper relationships with an underage girl possibly more. What are we doing, man? The allegations surface on social media. This social media thing's going to end a lot of careers. Wait, it already has. In a since deleted post, an anonymous social media user said a girl who was seen with Giddey in videos was a high school junior. And of course, he declined comment. George, what are we doing, man? And can we give some advice, please?
They need to. Well, let's see. Josh Giddey Josh Giddey is under is 17, right? I mean,
No, he's
did he
21, I think.
he finally became 21? No. Um, you know, I think this is a situation where NBA is gonna have to step in and they're gonna have to do a little more um counseling, a little more, have some things in place for these players because look, our average age of players coming in is getting younger and younger. They're going down. You're going to have 18, 19 year olds coming in, which we've had the past couple of years. Look, the draft is full of, one and dones. And a lot of these kids that have been taking alternate routes to the league instead of going to college. So they're going to have to adjust how they do things, um, to protect these players because they're going to be targets. I mean, you got what probably right now probably about 30% of the league couldn't go to a club, be allowed into a regular club, a 21 and over club. So you're going to have to do some things to protect them. We knew back in the day it was a alcohol or drug situation, so you could 9 times out of 10 you could call somebody from the league, get you a ride home or whatever. They're going to have to do something different to protect these players because look, they're you got kids that are really kids that are just right out of high school. So they're gonna have to give these guys tools and strategies in order how to deal with these situations. I
Mm.
mean, I can remember back in the day when I remember we were in college that the rape situation was a big thing. And I remember our coach. This is hilarious to say, but I remember our coach telling us, "Hey, you better get her to sign the release form before you do anything with her." But it's going to get to this point because these kids, when you're 19, you're a millionaire. You're seen everywhere. You're out there in the middle. You're out there with no armor on. They're gonna have to do something for them. Have to do something for
All right. I'm going to run from that and go straight to our power rankings. I got Boston as number one. Minnesota's two. They're playing good ball.
them.
Oklahoma City is three this week till the distractions get them.
Hmm.
Denver, Dallas, Orlando's balling. Fans, pay attention to the Magic. The Bucks seven, the Heat eight, Sixers nine, and the Suns are 10. My 65 game club analysis, and for new fans, that's a running joke because the best players tend to play just about 65 games, and it's an 82 game season. So at the end of the year, when they're scrambling, blame them because they don't play enough games. George in the East, Boston's good. Orlando has my attention. Paulo Banchero leads the Magic in points, rebounds, and assists. The Bucks are flawed. Dame is finding out having the news media with him every game. It's not a good thing. They're watching everything he does, and he never had this kind of attention in Portland. What do you think? Any thoughts on the East this past week?
It's gonna take. I think that beginning for the Bucks was interesting because they were so hot. But like all of them, it's going to take a while for them to figure everything out on that team, the roles and who's doing what, when, how, and where. New situation for Damian. Nobody cared about him in Portland, but now he's with Milwaukee. And it has changed. It changed the dynamic, especially on all the everything that uh, everything that went along with that trade. It's different water when you're with a contender. It's a whole that pool water is a different temperature at that point in time. So that's going to be. It's just going to take them a time to get everything ironed out. Once they do, it's going to change. You'll see the change with them. I think Orlando's a huge surprise. Bankero, who had put in work last year as a rookie, is coming into his own. Will it last? We'll see what happens. It's a long, long schedule, long season. So yeah, I
But the
mean
East is bad, though, man.
the
They might
East
hang
is,
in there.
yeah, because the East is terrible. The East is terrible. But like I said, like we talked about last week, it's Boston, Milwaukee, and then everybody else.
Okay. In the West, Minnesota has my attention. Balanced scoring. Good mix of old and young players. Mike Conley's still there, guys. Don't forget that. Keep an eye on them. And the Edwards kid is he's a monster. OKC's a problem because they got young players getting early wins, building confidence if you keep them out of the club. But will they let those distractions get in the way? And with the old heads, the Lakers, Suns, injuries are already a problem. KD missed the game because of a foot. Rui Hachimura got injured. Like, how do you get injured? Any thoughts on the West right now?
Um, the West is a bunch of teams still trying to figure it out. I mean, look at Phoenix. The old man syndrome hit. You can't get the big three on the court all at the same
I
time.
don't think they played together
They
yet.
haven't played a game. They haven't played a game together. Um, I think you started seeing this last year, and you're starting to see it even more. You're starting to see the young guns starting to come in and take over. Ant is crazy. That Timberwolves team is going to be a problem. Like with Oklahoma City, they got a bunch of straight ballers out there. You just roll out. Even if Giddy's got girls in the club that are underage, they still got a bunch of ballers out there. One interesting thing that piques my interest is that you see the start the Dallas Mavericks are having
Mm-hmm.
after you've given Kyrie and your boy a full preseason together to see how they're clicking because the Mavericks are playing really good right now. They're winning some games. I think this is going to be the story for the whole season. You know, your top six are Sacramento at 6, Denver at 5, Phoenix at 4, Dallas at 3, Oklahoma City at 2, and Minnesota at 1 right now. That's going to be the regular. We'll see if New Orleans can stay healthy and stay out of trouble. And come in.
Zion's still playing, man.
Yeah, they've already lost McCollum, the evening board, to keep them on a even level right there. So with him gone, you don't know which way we don't know which way New Orleans is going to go. But I mean, but they got a lot of talent down there, and with Golden State and LA, yeah, we'll see if the old father time gets them and they can hang on. Hell, the other night in the game, Golden State, Steve Kerr pulled all the starters out and let the rookies play, and they brought them back for a minute and almost won the game. So, you're going to have those kinds of things. I think you just see the wave of youngsters coming through, and they're going to play a pivotal role in the league this year.
And be careful because Luca's got a hand injury, and we don't know if it's serious or not. But Dallas can't afford to have a hiccup.
No.
So fans, the in-season tournament is coming fastly to a close. We will have the semifinals December 4th. I'm sorry, the quarterfinals December 4th and 5th, the semifinals December 7th, and the finals December 9th. In the Eastern Conference, Group A, George, I know you're at the edge of your seats. The Pacers have made it into the tournament, and it will be between the Sixers and the Cavaliers to see the other team. In Group B, the Bucks, Heat, and Knicks are all still battling, so you still got those teams involved. And in Group C, Boston, Brooklyn, and Orlando. So we'll know that information at the next taping. And in the Western Conference, the Lakers are into the tournament, and they're in Group A. The Suns and the Jazz are playing for the second slot. In Group B, you've got the Pelicans, the Rockets, and Denver fighting. 3 teams fighting for 2 spots. Group C, the Sacramento Kings, who again are very quietly having a good season. The T Wolves and Golden State are the 3 teams fighting for 2 spots. So, George, next week we will do predictions for the in-season tournament. But the big question before we close is: have you even watched an in-season tournament game?
I have and didn't even know it was an in-season tournament game.
But the courts are different.
Okay, they do a whole lot of different stuff with different uniforms all year, all the time with the NBA. And it just got dawned on me like, oh, this is one of those games.
All
so,
right.
Yeah.
Fans, I am trying to keep my friends and you as the viewer engaged. My god brothers posted on Facebook saying, "What is this?" So again, next week we'll have the full breakdown, hopefully, and predictions. I care, as Will said, and we'll be right back on the Odd Coaches podcast with the men's college basketball. We'll be we'll be right back. Y'all are wrong.
The reviews are in for Dr. Keith Adams' book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. College professor and student athlete academic expert Dr. Lisa Rubin said, "There is nothing out there like this book, so I do hope people will pay attention and give it a read." Former George Mason standout Fowler Campbell said, "Consider this book an opportunity to work directly with Dr. Adams just like I did. I assure you that there will be something you can take away that will be useful to you throughout your personal journey." Ryan Waite, a recent college graduate who is a software engineer, said, "I like how the book is based on research, which makes it good for general students as well as student athletes." The book serves as both a memoir to Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes over 15 personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues from a variety of sports and endeavors. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches podcast in segment 2. And I'm glad I got a former athletic director with me because we both have had to deal with fan behavior at basketball games. You see, fans, football is a stadium. You're outside. You've got different entrance and exit points. You got a lot of extra stuff. Basketball's contained. You get to hear like almost everything. And an incident happened last week that I definitely wanted to bring across and talk with George about. So, University of Cal Berkeley officials have asked a West Coast holiday tournament to ban a fan who allegedly called Fardos Amok a terrorist before the sixth-year forward confronted him into the stands. One, don't confront fans in the stand. But a video circulated on social media showing the player, who's the son of Afghan refugees from Vancouver, British Columbia, is where he's from, approach a fan in the crowd. Coach Mark Madsen said in the statement that he confronted the fan after being subjected to derogatory language during the game and after it. George, one, what are your thoughts on fan interactions with players? And two, how would you have handled that situation as an athletic director?
You gotta, you know, just because you buy a ticket does not mean you're allowed to go completely left with your comments to players and stuff. At the same time, we got to protect that. You got to protect your players. Yeah, heckling is one thing, but when it goes across the line, it's a different story. I've had to confront a number of fans about things that they've had to say to players on the court. It's a more intimate. You were making that whole uh, thing versus football versus basketball. It gets very intimate. If they're sitting close to the floor, you can hear everything.
Everything.
Everything. So it when it comes to a situation where it becomes detrimental to the player, it's upon the school to step in and protect the player, because you don't want the player protecting themselves, because first thing they're going to do is go in, and once they go into the crowd, it becomes it all. You don't know what's going to happen. The big question mark comes up. Oh, whole fiasco could break out. So yeah, I don't, just because you buy that ticket doesn't mean you have the right to say whatever you want to. You can cheer, you can boo, you can do that, but I think once you start crossing the line, it's ridiculous. So I think they need to really be mindful of that. And it was the right thing to do to have security go in and remove that fan. But the wrong thing is that you got the player going in to confront them, because the players are always going to stand up for their family, their parents, their significant other, whatever. So yeah, it was that was out of line. That was totally out of line.
Yeah, and to add to that, even us as athletic administrators, we want you to have a good time. Some of the chants are funny. Sometimes we break character. It's like, all right, that's all right, that's okay. You're going to work for us one day, whatever. But when it when it gets to that point, yeah, you definitely want to get security involved. You want to over secure, especially these indoor events, just for player safety, for coaches' safety, and for safety of the family members of the players because they feel it too, and they usually hear it first. So you got to be very mindful of that. OCP top five. These are the best of the best. Purdue, Kansas, Arizona, Marquette, and UConn. A lot of these teams played each other in the Maui Invitational. Before we talk about that, the mid-major top five: Gonzaga, Akron, JMU, go Dukes, Liberty. Liberty's doing something over there, and Drake. So here's some things I want to talk about before we end this segment. George, I saw Purdue play the way I want to see him play as a coach. I watched them play from start to finish. Zach Edey is the hardest player in the country to guard, and their guards won't let him be dominant. Um, and that's what cost them last year in the tournament. And I think it's going to cost them this year because that guy is good. Any thoughts on Zach Edey, sir?
Um, Purdue has got to go back. Really, their offense has got to be structured old school style, where they play inside out, and their guard and the guards don't want to play inside out. They want to play. They want to play the new way and play outside in. So
Yeah, and go home in the first round against the
that's
worst
it,
team
it,
in
that's
in
what
the tournament.
that's what happened to them last year. That's what's going to happen to them this year if they keep doing that.
Well,
It's going to be like that because nobody can guard him down there.
nobody.
He catches the ball as much as I hate it and as much as boring as I think they are. Um, Getting him the ball in the paint is a guaranteed two plus or three.
And he will pass it back out. That's the thing.
Yes,
He
yes,
once the collapse came in against
yeah,
Marquette, who I'll talk about shortly, kick it out to the shooter to miss the shot.
right,
They've got shot takers. They don't have shot makers
right,
on Purdue. They take
right,
a lot of shots,
right.
but they're not making them. So,
Yeah,
all right. Speaking of Marquette, they're the best defensive team I've seen in the country. They
yes.
guard without help. Do go get them 94 feet,
Mm,
but they can't score in bunches.
no.
If they got to come off the screen and catch it square, they were having some trouble with that. George, have you seen Marquette play? And if so, what are your thoughts on?
Yes, I have seen them play. Actually, I saw that Kansas game. They defensive wise, they're monsters. They pick you up from baseline to baseline. They're gonna go ahead and go ahead and get in you. You are correct. They have no. I think they're lacking scores. They can score within the system. They can't score outside of the system. So when the system breaks down, we get late in the shot clock. We ain't got nobody to make it happen, and that
Defense
is a
creates
problem.
the offense.
Yeah,
And if the
yeah,
defense ain't creating the offense,
right.
and I got to worry about you drawing up something,
Yeah,
wait, I'm going to go under the screen.
yeah. We got a problem. We got a problem. um, they're good. They're great as long as they're turning you over. The minute they can't turn you over, oh, they got a problem. So
Yes.
I think they are a great team. They're incomplete team
Yeah.
until they find out until they find some answer for that. Maybe some Dwayne Wade will step out and then his next version will come out on the court and save him. But if not, you're going to have to live with that. You're going to have those 10-minute, 5-minute dry spells of not scoring. And now the game's back to being close again when y'all were up 20. And now it's back to being a 2-point game. You're going to need scores to win in the tournament, in the and so, Marquette's got a problem that they got to fix.
Yeah, but that defense does travel.
Yes,
Our
it does.
final team is Kansas. I watched Kansas play, and man, with everything going on with Bill Self, they're a good team. Hunter's a good player and all, but it's hard to root for Kansas this year, knowing how some of those assistants got railroaded and Bill Self got a contract. But that's me being overprotective. But again, Kansas is a good team. Have you watched Kansas in any depth?
Yeah, I did see Kansas. Actually, yes, I've seen Kansas twice. They're good. They're. I mean, they're a regular Bill Self team. They're going to be hard nosed. They have some scores, guys that you don't expect to be scores or scores. And they do one thing I will give Bill Self's teams credit for. They do the little things correct, and that usually gets them big wins. So yeah, they're going to be a tough team. They'll be right there towards the end. I see a lot of blue bloods back in the mix again this year. So we'll see how it how it all finishes out. I do want to say before we get off the top, Houston again is burning up the charts. But why every year is it Houston and Baylor or Houston and Baylor? Do these two? You got two coaches right here that go out, and I think they. I'm not going to say they go to the unconventional methods to find some real great players that were in trouble, had bad grades or something. Now show Calvin Sampson is the ultimate with doing this. And he just backs the truck up at the arena, dumps them out and said, look, throws them balls, say, hey, look, go handle your business. And they continue to do it. So it's incredible to see, Calvin Sampson after the whole run and Indiana stuff to come back into it and have, was this his second, third year that Houston's been a factor. So
Yeah,
he's putting
and
them
they
up.
guard, man. They
Yes,
guard
they
without
are.
help. They've won 7 straight at the time of this taping, and I'm with you. Keep an eye on Houston because they play people,
Yeah.
and they're going to be a tough matchup in the tournament. They're not going to get worse.
No,
They're not
they're
going to
like
get worse.
no, they're Marquette with scoring. Marquette
Yes.
with scoring. So and that's scary. That's scary.
All right. So fans, in segment 3, we'll go to the women's game. We'll be right back on the Eye Coaches podcast.
Why should student athletes use the CKA SAVE Project academic and athletic consulting services? Over the past 15 to 20 years, colleges, universities, professional sports teams, business organizations, and others have increased their use of consulting services to improve their decision-making processes and results. Over the same time, the athletic and academic landscape has changed for high school and college student athletes as the NCAA has raised initial academic eligibility requirements for student athletes while decreasing the number of transfer restrictions. Former college student athletes have noted that they were academic and athletically unprepared for the rigors of college. Let the CKA SAVE Project's close to 30 years of academic and athletic experience help guide student athletes to increase success as we work to help student athletes achieve the goal of obtaining a college degree. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches podcast in segment 3. I hate starting off with this. UConn guard Azzi Fudd and her family. I've known her dad Tim for a lot of years. Her mom stud at Georgetown. She's going to miss the rest of the season after suffering an ACL tear in her right knee. It was a non-contact injury. UConn just can't get off the snide with the injury bug. So sending our best to AZ. George, I don't know if you knew Tim or not, but AZ is just a dominating player, and this kind of sucks for college basketball as a whole right now.
Yeah, I don't really know Tim. But this is like the third. It feels like it's been like the third year or something in a row. UConn's had a major player get injured like this, man, and it
Yeah.
it it, it sucks. They're gonna weather the storm. They got enough talent up there to continue to keep the train rolling. But it's just a sad situation. Sad situation.
All right, I wanted to provide an update on Angel Reese and the Kim Mulkey situation. And fans, I had an opportunity to talk to Follerin Campbell, my former player, and Sharita Campbell, his wife, cousin Rita, and you hear her voice on our show. And I'm not the biggest Kim Mulkey fan, but she could coach. And I reached out to them to help get my thoughts together because Angel Reese is not playing. There's speculation on why she's not playing. And it just reminded me that the women's game needs to be covered more. That's also the good and the bad. And all of this will play out, but it's challenging coaching right now, George. You got NIL, you've got transfer portal, you've got all types of different distractions, and it's not just about the sport anymore. Share your thoughts on how challenging it is right now, not only just to be a student athlete, but to coach and administrate these student athletes with all of the different distractions that are going on.
LSU's in an interesting situation because they they got the women's program that year. You already got a high profile school, and you're taking a high profile school that now that you get a little more spotlight, and it's been interesting with the women's program. You only had a handful of players and a handful of programs that stood out that got a lot of the press going on it. Okay, so and it just so happened LSU was at the top of that heap at this point in time. And going into the season, you could see this coming because Angel Reese got so big. And then they put the all-star team together with the transfer portal. And with the money with the money that these players can make, Angel Reese is the trendsetter here because she signs the deal with Reebok. She becomes a
Shaq.
trendsetter. Yeah, she becomes a trendsetter. Going to the WNBA is not her focus right now because she could have left last year, but she could probably make more money in college right now. And she became, she's the star of the team. She became bigger than the team is, and you got one of those problems, and it's going to be, at that point in time, like I said, and I think we talked about I think a couple weeks last week or whatever. Monkey's gonna have one of those. It's a hard situation for her where she's gonna have to bring them in and have look. This is a team kind of situation. This is bigger. You're not bigger than the team. We have a goal here, but you're gonna have to realign their priorities because to them, getting paid is the biggest thing for Angel Reese, and she's getting that done. That in tune becomes the problem. If I'm making $1 million+ and I'm the reason we got this, all that I'm like one of the main reasons we got all this hype. Why are you sweating me about class? Is this class? I could have left last year. So they're gonna have to have that old come to Jesus meeting and get that locker room together. But as an AD, it is going to be it's tough now when you got kids that are, and God bless them, that they're making the money that they deserve because they bring so much money into the school. But it's tough because what do you tell a kid who's making $1 million+? I
Yeah.
mean, you at
This
like
is
Colorado,
uncharted territory, sir.
yeah.
Uncharted territory.
Colorado better be glad that Dion has his son's head screwed on straight because they could really, what do you tell them? I mean, what do you tell players like them? What do you tell the Angel Reeses? You need to go to class. Why? I can make it $1 million a year plus. So it's a tough. This landscape is going to have to be navigated very carefully because to keep the kids in not in line, but in a working relationship, it's got to become a working relationship between the player and the school, and it's not any you better do this or else because that's not going to work for them. So
Yeah. And in my book, I did write about the growing chasm between academics and athletics and recommended some different positions be hired in athletic departments to kind of still be that bridge. But it's another story for another day. Let's get to the overall top five. South Carolina, UCLA, Stanford, Colorado, and Iowa. In terms of the mid majors, Princeton, Gonzaga, Florida Gulf Coast, South Dakota State, and Toledo. One note this week, George, I didn't put it in the notes, but Maryland's women, for the first time in a very long time, they're not ranked right now. And that caused me pause because they've been not just a good program, they have been and continue to be a great program, but they are out of the top 25 for the first time in 13 years. So, one, kudos to the Maryland women for being in the top 25 for 13 years in a row. But that caught my eye. Anything this past week catch your eye in the women's game?
um USC, man, woof. They're filling it up. They're gonna be a tough team down. The new the young girl they got in, the rookie, the freshman they got
Freshman.
in. Yeah, she's lighting it up. She is lighting it up, and I like seeing her. The other big one that jumped out at me is this the Dion effect of what Colorado is now in the top 10
Yes.
right now? If I'm checking correctly, Colorado's either, if you got them, they're either the top, they're either three, two or three or four.
Yeah.
Um,
I got them in our top five.
Good God. I mean, and this shows you the effect that can be had on on an entire athletic program. Once you get once football starts turning the direction, the sweeping effect it can have on a lot of the other programs at the school, because you hadn't heard of Colorado, and especially on women's basketball. Come on now, so it's good to see. It's good to see.
Yeah, and to wrap up, fans, some teams on some significant winning streaks that you should keep an eye on this week. NC State in the ACC, TCU in the Big 12, Texas Tech in the Big 12, Mississippi State in the SEC, and Vanderbilt. All of them are on 7-game winning streaks at the time of this taping. Every week we try to tell you some teams to watch, as we told you about Houston. So on behalf of George, I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the Coaches podcast. And we'll see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care.